Episode 1 of Movie Retreat. This is a place for all movie fans to come and hang out. And we've been talking about starting a podcast for a while. We've done other things, but never stayed really consistent. But we're going all in now with Movie Retreat. And we hope you continue to join us because we're going to be talking about all kinds of genres. We're going to be talking about reviews, tier lists. I mean, anything you can think of in regards to movies, new and old. We're going to cover. We'll also cover some movie news from time to time, reviews for new movies coming out, just pretty much anything we could think of. We're definitely going to be doing a lot of experimentation early on. But again, if you're just a fan of movies and you like that vibe of just hanging out with your friends, hanging out with we're brothers. So hanging out with your brother, your sister, whoever, after a movie, just talking about that movie, stuff like that. That's kind of like the vibe we're going for. Just kind of hanging out, talking, and we'll see what happens with it. But Chris, what do you got to say about it, man? You excited about episode 1 of Movie Retreat?
Yeah, I'm excited. We've been, like you said, we've been throwing around ideas forever, and we finally kind of came up with a premise and a format that we could agree on that we thought would be, entertaining. But like you said, I mean, it was like when we went and saw, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but when we went and saw Jurassic World Rebirth, I mean, as soon as we got in the car, we were mainly talking about the major issues we have with it, which again, we'll get into a bit later. But yeah, that's almost part of the whole experience is the drive home, talking about it on the way home, talking with your friends, like, man, what did you think? Oh, you really, you like that? Oh, okay. And then just kind of going into some topics and some things that maybe other people don't really think about. Cause we grew up on movies. We've been watching movies since we can remember. I mean, they've been a big part of our growing up in our lives. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of go through this and see where it goes.
Yeah, I feel like you're staring right into my soul. Staring right into my soul when you said that, and I like it. But yeah, that's the thing. And we're just going to be along for the journey again. We're just excited to be starting. So we're going to get into our first topic here, and we're going to be doing a new game, a new segment. This will be something we do pretty regularly. We have a lot of different topics in a Mission Impossible Final Reckoning Popcorn 10 bucket. This will be the bucket list. And actually, you're going to draw, Chris. So I put these names in. Chris has no idea what it is. Chris is going to draw from this one. He's going to, before you draw it, what this is there's a bunch of different topics in that bucket. Chris is going to pull one out of the bucket. So if you're not watching the video and you're just watching or you're just listening in your car on the audio version, he's going to pull out a topic. I wrote all these in there. He doesn't know what's in there. It's going to have something in there. For example, Wes Anderson movies. Just an example. He's going to have to give me a top 5 list of his favorite Wes Anderson movies. So anything he pulls out will be a top 5 list, unless it says specifically top 10 or something like that. So there's about 12 topics in there right now. Chris has no idea what these could be. This is going to be improv off the cuff. He's got to just come up with it on the spot. So let's see what he draws out right now from the movie popcorn bucket.
There's just one.
From the bucket list, Chris has
Sly Stallone movies, non-Rocky.
Out of the bucket list, Sylvester Stallone, top 5 movies. Let's hear it, Chris.
All right, so number 5 would probably be Cliffhanger. Number 4, I think I'm going to go with Cobra. I really like that. I know that, that movie gets panned on a lot, but I think that's such a fun, ridiculous movie.
Love it.
Number 3, I'm gonna go Copland. Number 3,
another movie. Number 3.
I think he's really good in this movie, and I think this movie kind of got hated on when it first came out, but the more I've watched it, I think
from a performance perspective, yeah, it wouldn't be in my top 5 of his movies, but from a performance perspective, I get where you're going with that. That was kind of a different. No, I'm just saying that even for me, even though it's not a movie that I go back and revisit. That was kind of like a challenging role for him, was that was kind of his, Sylvester Stallone can do more than just action hero stuff. He can play kind of a different character. So, okay. So there's number 3. So what's your top 2? What's 2 and what's 1?
This is tough, but I think number 2 is going to be Tango and Cash. Yeah. Again, with him and Kurt Russell,
man. It's a fun one, man.
It really is. And they play so well off of each other.
Yeah.
That that's a movie that, I don't know if I'd call it a guilty pleasure because I just think it's a good movie. I don't think it's bad enough. but it's just a fun. Like as soon as it comes on, I can watch it till the end every single time.
Yeah.
And the number one is Daylight.
Yeah,
I
man.
love Daylight.
Daylight's so underrated. I don't think people, I'm not going to say people. I mean, people listen to our show probably respect Daylight, love it. But I think that's one that, like, that was right at the edge of when he kind of was transitioning from like being the action hero. Like that was kind of at the tail end of like his, you could say, his box office peak. But that movie, I just love that movie, man. That's a great movie.
It's such a great premise too. You know, like he goes in, they're stuck in this situation. It's not like any of these people did anything dumb. Just, you know, a natural disaster basically happens, and they're stuck down there, and he has to help them. They touch a little bit on like why, you know, he was kind of shunned. You know,
yeah,
like
classic.
And then I just love it. You know, and there's
Viggo Mortensen, one of the most rewarding. I won't give it away for people who haven't seen it, but just like great performance from at the time. I personally had no idea who Viggo Mortensen was when this movie came out, but he's incredible in this too. Like it's awesome. I just love movies like that, like where it's like all these people have to come together. It's like a thing. You got that one guy who, thank God he was in there, you know, again, at the time, I don't remember the movie. Do they send Sylvester Stallone in there? I would imagine so.
Yeah,
like he's the guy they send in. Okay.
Yeah, he has to go in there. In fact, I remember they send him down through like some kind of like air shaft or something. You know, and it's just got it's got, I wouldn't say like memorable characters, but it's got characters that you end up caring about. And it's got some like kind of some kind of like tearjerker moments in it. You know, this movie is fantastic.
I do too.
So this is a pretty easy one for me to put as my number one.
And, you know, Sylvester Stallone just has a great filmography. Rocky, I mean, not being able to pick Rocky movies, I mean, like we were talking about, Rocky would definitely be
wait. First Blood would be.
Wow.
How did I?
Unbelievable. That's what it's all about, off the cuff.
All right, so First Blood, I'm going to say Cobra, Tango and Cash.
Okay.
Daylight.
Yes.
And then Copland. And then if I had to rank them, 5 would be Cobra, 4 would be Copland, 3 I think would be, oh, this is tough. I think 3 might be First Blood, and then 2 Tango and Cash, and then 1 Daylight. I know people probably don't appreciate Daylight the way that I do, just because
Don't assume. I think there's a lot of people out there. Our listeners right now, they're probably thinking, finally, somebody that says Daylight. Yeah.
And, but yeah, so if anything, number 1 would be Daylight regardless, but depending on the day, I could flip 2 and 3. So
yeah. All right. Well, that's a good list. Like I said, a lot of, you know, I'll, for the sake of time, I'll just, mine is very similar. The only ones that you don't have on there that I might include in mine would be movies like, you know, I might have. I'm trying to think of the one I mentioned a minute ago.
One that was like on the. There was 2 other ones that I thought about. Was Cliffhanger and Assassins, which Assassins isn't a great movie, but it's got so many like memorable things that happen in it, you know, and him and Antonio Banderas.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, I also like some of the older Rocky movies. Some of the ones are not Rocky, but Rambo movies that they've released. Those have been pretty good. Like the ones where he, like, you know, is retired or whatever, and he's like, I think something happens with his daughter or something.
Yeah.
He has to go get her.
Yeah. I've not been a big fan of, like, you know, the ones where he's like, you know, I forget the names of it. It's like a boxing one, Robert De Niro. Escape Plan. Okay. Yeah, I believe it's Escape Plan.
Escape Plan is not bad.
Expendables. You know, you had mentioned Expendables, you know, earlier. You know, Expendables, I do like Expendables, but it's just, I don't know, it doesn't capture the I don't know if it would get in my top 5.
Yeah.
But Cliffhanger's one, me personally, I don't even know if Cliffhanger would be in my top 5, to be honest with you. Same with Tango. Like it's hard when you can include the Rocky franchise in there. Mm-hmm. But Sly Stallone, that interesting filmography, because where you could pick some older Schwarzenegger movies where he started doing, like, even like Jingle All the Way has its own like charm to it. He tried
Kindergarten Cop.
That's what I'm saying. I think Schwarzenegger did a better job in his filmography of like kind of getting away from that just action hero thing. Where Sly Stallone, he had two really great franchises that he could always just go back to.
Well, there's a funny story about, because they were always competing for different gigs, and that Schwarzenegger leaked to Stallone's people that he wanted to be in Don't Tell Mom or She'll Shoot.
Oh yeah.
And so Sly Stallone was like, no, I want that, and then he ended up getting it, and so
yeah, just great. Still a great filmography. That was a tough one. And again, we're going to keep this series going. Chris is going to add some into the bucket next week. So mine will be a different popcorn bucket, but that's how we're going to do it, is like, I'll be pulling ones that Chris just randomly put in there. He'll be pulling ones I randomly put in there, and it'll be on the spot. And there's chances that during the episode, he might forget, because when you're on the spot and you're not looking, you might forget something you wanted to put in there. But we got to go with that top 5. That's what makes it fun, is it's to just really think about which ones stick with you the most,
Yeah.
So let's go on to our next topic, man. Really fun, though. Really fun. But we're going to get into some more serious business, and that is the Odyssey trailer. This has been one that, I feel if you're into, movie news, you're into, the movie culture like we are, we've been waiting for this for a while. But when I'm thinking about, general audiences, this was probably pretty cool for them to be sitting there watching, Jurassic World Rebirth and getting the treatment that we got in the theater. So it's actually go down, and it's almost like the movie's about to start, and then you get this teaser that's honestly about 45 to 50 seconds long. So I'm going to let you go first, Chris. What did you think about the trailer? Again, you can kind of get into what it was about. There's really no spoilers to really give, and I'm assuming that most people have probably at least seen it that really wanted to see the Odyssey trailer. I'm assuming that it's going to be released online by this upcoming weekend. Usually, I think when Nolan does this, he likes for it to be in there at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. But anyway, let's hear your thoughts on the Odyssey trailer.
So as far as the trailer goes, the trailer wasn't anything spectacular. It showed some cool shots, and had a few lines from John Bernthal's character that got me excited for it. But just the fact that you hadn't seen it before the theater, and that it's just a Christopher Nolan movie. I mean, we are such big, huge fans of Christopher Nolan that anytime he puts something out, I get really excited. But this didn't have the same pull that Dark Knight Rises, Dark Knight, Inception, and Interstellar. Those movies, their teaser trailers were just I remember Inception's teaser trailer was, because you just had no idea what this was even going to be about. And it was right after Dark Knight that he put out Inception. And I just remember seeing that and just being kind of blown. I could not wait to find out more about that movie.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. The, apologies for I'm moving my mic around for the audio listeners. I don't want to be too difficult on the trailer or too hard on it, because I'm the type of person, the less I see before a movie, the better. But with all the hype built into it, again, that we as fans did, the fact that they're saying, hey, we're only going to show this in theaters, which, by the way, I absolutely love that Christopher Nolan does this, because I think it's a great thing for movie theaters. And I talk all the time about how much I love those movie trailer moments, memories, all that different stuff when you used to have to go to a movie to see stuff. But in terms of this trailer, I did think it was a smart move to show Tom Holland and John Bernthal, because those two guys, again, we all know MCU, that's a big time draw for a lot of people. And I think it creates this, golly, that now they're in a Nolan film, especially Tom Holland, with kind of how he's looking for that. I think this is going to be a really big movie for his career.
It's got to be, because other than Spider-Man, he has made some very interesting choices as far as projects.
Yeah.
But I'm with you that I can't be too critical that, man, they didn't show hardly anything, and then we're constantly complaining that, God, they showed the whole movie.
Here's the issue I had with the trailer, though, is I don't care that they didn't show anything crazy. I'm glad they didn't. I would have liked to have seen a moment to where there was this feeling of revealing something kind of cool. But I actually like how they didn't show much of the whole cast. This cast is loaded with Charlize Theron, Robert Pattinson, and the only, again, unless it was a quick shot that I missed.
Damon.
Yeah, you got Matt Damon in there, and obviously, and then you have John Bernthal and Tom Holland. I did like the dialogue from John Bernthal. I know a lot of people online have been saying, like, you know, his accent is what I personally don't care about that. I kind of have the Ben Affleck in The Town, where there's that story where Jeremy Renner was kind of talking about, like, man, I want to make sure I sound from Boston. And Ben Affleck goes, I'm not really worried about the Boston accent. I just want it to sound like we grew up together. And so that's kind of the feeling I have too. I think it's more of a distraction when people try to do an accent and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And Bernthal's going to kill it in this movie. He's going to kill it. But
great and everything.
I do like the scene of like showing Matt Damon on the raft. I did like some of the cinematography we saw. The film or the trailer itself was edited so bizarrely though, because towards that part where they had the raft and they did that whole scene or that whole part of the trailer, it just abruptly went to the Odyssey. And it was just, I don't know, it was a bizarre editing style that I've never seen. And I thought, like, golly, like, that's weird, because I started thinking, you know, of course, Nolan's going to make sure this looks as good as it can look, like, before it gets released. So I'm almost wondering if that's strategic, if he's going to adopt like a new editing style in the Odyssey that we haven't seen from Christopher Nolan. Because if you really think about it, Christopher Nolan definitely has a style with how he edits movies, especially, you know, the last 20 minutes of a movie. He's got like 3 different things going on at once, and they kind of converge, quick cuts around different topics and scenes. I'm almost wondering if there's going to be a new editing style within this movie, or if this trailer just was not edited right, because that felt so jarring to me when I was watching it that it kind of took me out of it.
I feel like he just wanted to kind of put out there that, hey, we're making, you know, and obviously the people that follow films are going to know that this is being made, but not everyday Joes are going to know that, oh, they're remaking the Odyssey and it's the same guy that did Oppenheimer and Dark Knight and all that. So I do think that it looked a little different than most of his stuff, because most of his stuff just kind of like, it almost plays like a small section of a scene, and then it'll have some music played over. But this was a little bit different because it had intercuts of different scenes throughout. But again, the trailer itself, I didn't think it was mind blowing or anything. It definitely wasn't on the same scale as, you know, the ones I listed before. So yeah, I just think it's one of those things that it sounds a little bit different than, or it looks a little bit different than his other stuff. And again, does it match up to his previous work? No. But I just
think if you're gonna have this trailer come out and you're gonna advertise it and do all this stuff, I'll be honest, man. If you took the Chris Nolan name out of it, and I'm just watching that teaser trailer, there's not enough there for me where I was like super excited about the movie. And again, if you're just going to announce that the movie's there and you want to announce the cast, I thought it would have been almost just as effective to just literally put the cast list on the screen, show who's in the movie, and show one shot of Matt Damon coming up on the shore or something like that. Like, I just felt like it was edited so bizarrely that I'm very interested to see more from the movie. And I think that if we all kind of took a step back, because we know the movie's going to at least be visually stunning, and we know that the movie's going to be at least pretty good at the worst, because we just know that, like, the track record says itself. But in terms of just the trailer, if I'm just rating the trailer, I mean, I was definitely disappointed in it. Maybe my hype was a little too high. Maybe there's not that built-in, like, kind of like when you saw The Dark Knight Rises and you saw Bane for the first time, or saw Dark Knight and you heard Joker's voice for the first time. There's that built-in anticipation of a specific moment. And I guess, like you said, this one was more about just like, hey, if you know the Odyssey, you know that this is pretty epic. You know what these characters are talking about. But I'm just talking about for general audiences. I'm not sure. I would be interested to see how, like, leaving the theater, how excited people were. I didn't get that vibe in the theater when you see an amazing trailer where you almost can feel it in the auditorium, where like people are like, dude, that looks great. I didn't get that vibe from this in my showing, but you know, that's just me. But overall, I mean, again, I'm excited for the movie, but the trailer was just okay. I mean, it wasn't a great, in my opinion, it was just an okay trailer. I mean, that's just the honest truth of it, you know?
I would rather that than them show
too much. Absolutely. I'm being very critical because I expect, like, Nolan's trailers are usually just like 10 out of 10 for me. Like, just amazing trailers, especially the teasers, because they're just so, but you know, we know it's going to be, we'll be there opening day. We'll see it on the biggest screen possible. All right, let's quickly get into, we're going to talk about a couple of, we're going to spend a little bit more time on the Jurassic World Rebirth review. But before we get into that, we're going to quickly talk about F1, because we haven't gotten to talk about this together yet. We've talked a little bit about it, but just a quick quick review of F1. I'll even start. I personally think F1 is the movie of the summer for me so far. It's one of my favorite films of the year. It was definitely the most fun I've had in theaters this year. Not even close. Like in terms of just enjoyment and fun, this felt like a true like old school summer blockbuster. Definitely gave off the, again, the comparisons to Top Gun Maverick, of course, like Joseph Kosinski, like we get it. Like I agree. It is definitely that Top Gun Maverick type of summer blockbuster, but that's a great thing because I think Top Gun Maverick's one of the best summer blockbusters that's come out in the last 20 years. So again, for me, I thought F1 was fantastic. We actually saw it on IMAX and we're just blown away by it. The movie is fantastic. I mean, that's just my opinion on it, but I love this has tons of rewatchability. This had, Brad Pitt's great in this. The whole cast, Javier Bardem is sensational in this, in my opinion. His character is almost a character you root for almost more than anybody else in the movie. And it was just a blast to watch, man. The racing scenes in this, the music, just everything. We saw it in a packed IMAX screening, and it played very well. Like it was very, like I can see why this movie's doing so well at the box office. I think it's going to have legs throughout July, even though there's going to be a ton of competition. I do think if you haven't seen it, you need to see it now because pretty soon they're going to be taking that out of the premium formats like IMAX and 4DX and all that. But yeah, just from my one time watching it, I definitely want to revisit it. I'm going to try to catch it in theaters before it leaves, but I just loved it. I thought it was one of the best movies of the year, by far my favorite movie so far this summer, which is crazy because there's been some really good movies this summer so far, but this is number one for me. Yeah, and I liked Thunderbolts. I liked,
Yeah, if we're
obviously
gonna count that,
I
then yeah,
enjoyed Final Reckoning as well.
yeah. So there's been a few for sure,
yeah.
but yeah, this is the most fun I've had in the theater in a long time. When the movie starts, probably within the first 5 to 10 minutes, I knew that it was going to be great. I knew that it had already set the tone for it to be a great movie, and they just hit all of those things that I want out of a movie like that. They have the drama with the new young rookie. They had a little bit of the love story sprinkled in. Javier Bardem was, like you said, fantastic. I just felt like for a movie like that to work, you have to make people feel like, even people that aren't real familiar with F1, you have to make them feel like they're in there in the driver's seat with the guy, with Brad Pitt, and they did that masterfully. I mean, I don't think I'll be like a huge F1 fan after this, but it did make me care about it way more than I did before going into the theater. So yeah, I agree. This is one of the best movies I've seen this year, probably the best movie I've seen this year and maybe in the last few years. I mean, it's just a good, fun summer blockbuster, which we don't, in an original one, not one that's a sequel to something or, a remake or anything like that. And I hope they make more blockbusters. I mean, remember like when Men in Black came out and that was a completely new IP and completely new thing. Independence Day, like, I wish we get back to more stuff like that, and hopefully this paves the way for that.
Well, even though this was attached to F1 and it's almost a big marketing thing for F1 and Apple, for the movie to have as much heart as it did and for that to not bother me whatsoever, because again, there is the Apple product placement with him wearing the AirPod Maxes at the beginning. There's a ton of like, this movie is F1. Like F1 gave it their blessing, like that, so it is based on that. But this movie is way better than I think it has any business being. I thought the trailers were pretty decent, but this movie was like way better than even the marketing made it, because I knew that the racing scenes were going to be incredible. But I was like, what kind of story are they going to have with it? I think that's what made Top Gun Maverick so sensational, is like you really cared about the characters a lot. But the difference is you had a previous movie to kind of get connected, at least Maverick. With this, I think that Brad Pitt just knocked out of the park. And I'm so glad that he was the one in this role, because Brad Pitt has this incredible ability to be like, just movie star looks, obviously. I mean, the guy's just like, he's, people's sexiest man alive, all this stuff, but he picks roles where he never is that character in a movie.
Yeah.
Like I think the coolest character he's probably ever played is Rusty from Ocean's films. Like where the character's looks and cool personality kind of play into what he's doing. Yeah. With this, like every other movie he plays, man, I just love the roles that he chooses. I think Brad Pitt, we're going to look back at his filmography, and here's a guy that could have went a completely different route with just being like a heartthrob role all the time. And he really seeked out really cool work. And F1, I'm glad to see him finally getting in a big summer blockbuster that's just fun, but he adds so much to that character of Sonny. Like you said, first 5 minutes, he just commands the screen, man, and you're just all invested into his character throughout the whole thing. The whole cast is great. Damson, I forget his last name, but the guy who plays Pierce,
Yeah,
since that guy's going to be just a
yeah,
megastar.
he was
Dude's going to
fantastic.
be a megastar, man. And yeah, I just loved it. It was fantastic. And now we got to get into something else. Now we got to get in because it
Now
is
we
the summer
gotta,
movie
now we
season.
gotta come off of our high and
We got to come off of the F1 high. And just to really quickly piggyback on what you said, hopefully Hollywood learns the right lessons from all this. That although the opening box office, I hope they look more into like what's making F1, what's making Top Gun Maverick, what's making these movies successful. I started getting irritated with they were calling the F1 the dad movie of the year and all this. I hate that because it gives it this thing of like, hey, man, it's just for like 50, 60-year-old dudes, just, and again, I know dads can be 20, 30, but it gives off that idea of like, this is something your dad take to, I kind of think of a movie like Taken like that, like a dad movie, like, where it's like an older guy just kicking ass and kind of.
well, and I just look at, you know, we were probably going to enjoy this movie, even if it wasn't the best movie. We probably still would have liked it a little bit because we love sports. Brad Pitt, obviously, but to really see how good a movie is, I think you got to look at people that aren't into racing at all
Yeah.
or aren't into any kind of sports type things and how they view it. And the people that we know that have seen it that aren't into those things,
Yeah.
they probably
Well,
loved
and
it
just,
just as much.
yeah. And just, it's a true family. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
great summer blockbuster. And then we get to a movie that you would assume would be like and again, the movie's doing really well. By the time you're listening to this episode, the movie made over 300 million over the holiday weekend worldwide. It's a massive, massive IP. There's theme park rides and all this stuff. It's an IP that I still love because of how much I love the first two films. And that's Jurassic Park, now Jurassic World, which I've noticed even with the Jason Voorhees, like the Jason universe. I feel like we're in this thing now where it's like world, universe, like so they can branch out other stories. I'll be quick with this review because I think there's been so much said already that I don't know how much I'm going to add to the discourse, but I did not enjoy Rebirth whatsoever. There was a few moments that I did enjoy. I thought there was a few moments, but they were few and far between. This will be spoiler free, but I just like it. It didn't. It was a movie that was trying so hard to make you feel something for characters that like they just did not. The script just did not cooperate with that. Like these characters are just very one note characters. They're caricatures at the end of the day. Like they're just people that like you never really get any good moments with the characters. It and if you're just going to see a lot of cool dinosaur stuff, there is a few good dinosaur sequences in this. Like there is a few good, like if that's what you're wanting to see, but this is like a 2 to 2.5 hour movie. It really slogs through most of it. I mean, the first like 45 minutes, it just takes a while to get there. And even when it does get there, it just doesn't do a whole lot. And a bit of spoilery stuff. The whole script is, or the whole story is based around they have to extract this blood from these three living dinosaurs, but there was never any tension for me with some of these scenes. I think the best sequence they had was on the water. That whole water sequence I thought was pretty good. I thought the sequence in the rock climbing or the scaling the cliff or whatever, I thought that sequence could have been way more special. But it just by that time I think a lot of people are checked out. At least I was, and I didn't really even care anymore. And then the final act, man, that thing goes on forever and it just never seems to really build up to anything. By the end of it, it just doesn't feel like, for me anyway, it just feels like this empty movie. And again, I know it's a summer movie, it's Jurassic World, but like, me personally, I just feel like there's either the franchise needs to end or you got to go a different route with it. You got to go smaller with it. You got to
Yeah,
go. But anyway, go ahead. But again, it's easy to say that, but all they're seeing is dollar signs. So you can't fault them for continuing to make these movies, but I just wish they were a little bit more enjoyable.
yeah. I just the whole time, and I hate to compare it to the previous Jurassic Park because it'll never like nothing they ever make is going to recapture that.
Yeah, never, never.
But if you look at just one part of that, look at how they introduced Dr. Grant in that movie in the original, and then look how they introduced Scarlett Johansson's character in this one. And this isn't giving anything away because it happens in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, but the first 10 minutes, all you learn about her is that she's basically just a mercenary for hire, and she'll do anything, whether it's illegal or not, as long as there's enough money involved. Contradict that to Dr. Grant, who's like the opposite. Like he wants, the first time you see him, he's teaching that kid about, the velociraptors, and then he's sitting there and like, that in the back of his mind, it's more about preserving these things that he's attached to. And I just think that is just right there. Now you're rooting for Dr. Grant. I don't know if like you're ever truly rooting for Scarlett Johansson throughout the movie. Like, yeah, you want her to succeed and you want the, people to live and stuff, but you're not like fully invested in what they're doing. But just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, there were so many just huge plot holes, and every character in this movie that they wanted to save had the biggest amount of plot armor you can imagine. Just things that didn't make sense, like why they did certain things. And again, I don't want to get too big into spoiler territory, but it's just the stuff I felt like they should have focused on. They didn't. And like you said, they're going to have to go smaller. Like they're going to have to, I don't know how you do it, but you're going to have to almost go back to like, hey, there's we have a park or whatever, like people are actually going through the park and seeing the stuff, and then a small event happens or something. I don't know, but
well, this movie, this was never designed to be this mega franchise. I mean, like the first, again, I know a lot of people don't like The Lost World. I personally love it, especially now even more when I've seen the other ones. Again, I Jurassic World's pretty good. I think that one's pretty good,
I really like Jurassic
but I didn't like the other two in that trilogy. This one's off to a really bad start with me. Jurassic Park 3 I thought was pretty decent, but Jurassic Park 1 and 2, Jurassic Park 1's in a category of its own. Jurassic Park 2, I still find tons of enjoyment. There's a couple of incredible sequences in there. But yeah, you're right. Steven Spielberg's not walking through that door. He's an executive producer, probably has no hands on anything with this, probably consults a little bit with the new director. I just think personally, man, like to sell the movie, you have to show all the cool stuff in the trailer. You have to show the dinosaurs or whatever. The thing with Jurassic Park movies is it all comes down to those sequences. And these sequences just don't have any tension for me. It's like there's way too many characters in this movie. We 45 minutes in, we shift gears to this whole other family, and again, without getting into spoilers, you just wonder why they're even in the movie, like why they're literally their characters are even where they are in the movie. And then it becomes where there's really no lead in this movie. Scarlett Johansson's the lead technically, but we spend so much time with this other family just when we're starting to get into the story of her and Jonathan Bailey and all these other characters. When we're finally starting to learn some more about them, they switch gears over to this whole other story, and we spend a lot of time over here. This movie just seemed like a focus group movie. I was telling you when we got out of just seeing it, I felt like this movie was like made in like a lab of like algorithms of like, all right, let's find every little bit that we can put in here and try to force all of that into the movie. We're going to have this storyline. We're going to have this storyline. We're going to have this dinosaur. The main dinosaur you see at the beginning, the D-Rex, the mutated dinosaur, really didn't even need to be in the movie. If you really look at the movie, it's not like they had to extract anything from that dinosaur.
Yeah, which
he's not even
sense.
A presence throughout the movie whatsoever.
That didn't make sense to me.
No.
Like, why are you going to tease this thing? And then and that was just another thing that, it just didn't make a lot of sense. And we talked about this too, is that I was naming off all the stuff on the way back. I was naming all the stuff that bugged me, like all of the plot stuff. And you were like, yeah, but if this movie was halfway decent, you wouldn't have cared about that.
Exactly. Plot holes, all that stuff. There's a ton of plot holes. We mentioned Christopher Nolan earlier. Trust me, I get all the plot holes in Dark Knight Rises and all this stuff, but you care so much about the characters. Everything else is so great that you forgive, at least me. Again, I know not everybody's the same. At least me, I can forgive that stuff. The thing I can't forgive, even in a big summer blockbuster Jurassic Park movie, is if I don't even care a little bit about any of the characters whatsoever, it makes it very difficult for there to be any tension in the movie. We have like these characters. It's almost like the red shirts in Star Trek. that every time you see, I'm not a big Star Trek, but I've heard that like in
Yeah, be careful here because we could lose a big audience if you don't
no,
start
no,
naming this right.
but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Star Trek, like these red shirts in the show, anybody that was wearing a red shirt, you knew they were going to get killed. There's characters in here that you get introduced to that are like part of the group that goes in first with Scarlett Johansson that you just know are not going to be around, and they get killed in just so unceremoniously
Yeah.
way. Like it irritates me so much because there's none of that tension.
Yeah.
Like, and again, we could go on and on. I don't want to be too hard on it because again, what else is there to be said about it? But
Well, I'll tell you what's crazy though is there's a ton of people, like if you look at the comments and stuff, a lot of, and again, I don't know if this is, a lot of what people do with movies now is they take a contrarian view. Either it's, if they
yes,
feel like everybody hates it, now they like it. If everybody loves it, now they hate it. So I don't know how much of that's in there, but I mean, most of the comments are like, yeah, I really like this movie. And it's just like, again, maybe they're not making this movie for me.
oh,
But
they're
if they're
definitely
not,
not. But
I don't know who they're making it for.
well, that's what I'm saying. I definitely don't think I think they're making the movie to make money, and I think that that's what they should be doing. But can't we have a good movie too? Like, can't we
Yeah.
have like a movie that like has a good script and like we have really cool dinosaurs? Like again, me and you, some of our favorite movies are considered quote unquote dumb movies or dumb blockbusters.
Yeah.
Just dumb fun. But this one, there's not anything enjoyable about it, and there's not any of this. There's not any other. Again, for me, it's a lot about characters, and when I don't get good characters in a movie, I can't like that's the hardest thing for me to overcome. So if people just are enjoying it for the dinosaur sequences, sure, but that is what happens online. You start digging your heels more into, oh, I really hated this movie or I really loved it. And once you get pushback, you almost want to get more into hating it or more into loving it, So
That's true.
overall, I think we can both agree we thought it was awful. I mean, we did not enjoy it whatsoever. And I'm a huge I love Jurassic Park's one of my all-time favorite movies, so it's disheartening that we can't get more good movies from the franchise, but it seems like some people enjoyed it. But yeah, us talking about it made me remember it again. But this is a movie that I've already forgotten. It's just one of those type of movies. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about this briefly. Superman's like the most talked about movie of the summer. I think we could agree on. I don't know what the box office is going to look like, but in terms of just the marketing and the brand awareness and the discourse online, there's not even a movie close to Superman in terms of people are either wanting to hate this movie, they're wanting to love this movie. Who knows how much it's going to make? But that's what I want to ask you is like, I have not seen a movie in a long time be marketed as heavy as Superman. This movie is being marketed. I would love to see the marketing budget on this. They are hitting everything with this marketing for this movie, man. I mean, I'm talking Dairy Queen blizzards. I'm talking about every commercial you could think of. If you're on social media, you always see something for this. So they're definitely putting all their eggs into this basket. And this is a very important movie for James Gunn's DC. So what do you think this box office is going to look like? Let's just go domestically. I mean, if you want to go international, that's fine, but just domestic box office opening. I've seen reports that it could be 100 million to 150 million. I've seen some reports it could be 125 to 175. Do you see this being the biggest domestic box office opening of the year? Do you see it being the biggest of the summer? Like, what's your prediction if you had to put, if you had to?
I don't know if I'd go year because Avatar comes out at the end of the issue.
I'm just talking about so far. I'm talking about so far. Do you think this will be the biggest domestic box office opening this year?
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it's not. And again, because Superman is one of the most iconic characters in all of media, and DC really needs a good movie. And I feel like they know that they have something good on their hands. And again, I trust James Gunn because he has such a great track record with the Guardians movies and with Suicide Squad. I feel like he understands what makes these movies work. And as soon as word of mouth, like if this movie's good, it could make countless amounts of money because the better the word of mouth is, people are going to go back and see this movie 2, 3, 4 times if it's good. I think with Fantastic Four, I feel like there's almost like a Marvel kind of, not like a haze or like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a little bit more of that with Marvel, and they're like, yeah, it's probably going to be pretty good. I don't think people are expecting, this huge, great, fantastic thing. But with Superman, they're like, God, dude, if they get Superman right,
This
like
feels more fresh, even though it's a superhero movie. It seems just the way it looks, just the way the trailer has been playing inside the theaters.
There's just more writing on this movie. I mean, if Superman's great, like if they get this and it's one of the top, 5 superhero movies in the past 10 years or so. I mean,
yeah, that's a lot of pressure though. Like that's what I'm saying. I agree with you, but that's a lot of pressure, and that's the kind of pressure that's on this movie. There's people out there that are going to hate this movie no matter how good it is. Like that, like I've seen the discourse online with the people that want to restore the Snyderverse, people that don't like James Gunn, people that whatever, and then there's people on the opposite side of it that are going to love it no matter what.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to be honest with you. Superman is not, I like the character. It's not one of the characters that's like in my personal, like, Mount Rushmore of like, when I read comics and all this stuff. So I'm excited about this movie just because I'm looking for that movie. The Superman movie I grew up with was Superman Returns with Brandon Routh, so I'm looking for, and Man of Steel came out, but again, I'm talking about the first one I saw in theaters was Superman Returns. I wasn't the biggest fan of Man of Steel. I like Henry Cavill in the role. And I think that he got, with all the stuff that happened, that's a whole nother conversation of like, I wish he would have got another Superman movie. But I'm going to go into this with about as open of a mind as possible because I liked Guardians 1, or I loved Guardians 1, liked Guardians 3, liked Guardians 2, but like Guardians 1 is the one that I really hold up from James Gunn of like, if he can capture that same magic, we'll see. But with a character,
just look what he did with, I look more at what did he do with Suicide Squad? He took a movie that when they first made it was atrocious and he changed it up. And and that's what was more impressive to me is that he took a movie that was, very much maligned. A couple years later, he puts out a brand new one with, some of the same characters, but mainly just a whole group of new, not only actors, but characters, and hit it out of the park. I really liked the Suicide
There was
Squad
parts
movie.
of it that really drove me crazy in that movie. I thought there were some great parts as well. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I feel about the Guardians 2 and 3 is like, there's some great high points and there's some points that I'm just like, golly, like that's just not for me. But Guardians 1, I think, is just a great superhero movie. And so he's capable of doing that, but I'm not like this big, like if the movie sucks, I'm going to say it sucks. If the movie's incredible, I'm going to say it's incredible. So I'm saying by the time you're actually watching this clip or watching this, whether you see this on YouTube, on your podcast, the embargo is going to be lifted. So the reviews from the critics are going to be out there. I always encourage, go make your own decision. I personally think, man, my prediction for this, I'm thinking this is 150 plus. I think that this movie is going to be massive opening.
I agree.
I think even if the movie's not any good, it's not going to affect the opening weekend. I think that this movie is going to open massively domestic. I think it's going to be 150 plus. This movie is everywhere. I just feel like there's this energy, and when the trailer plays in the movies I've been to, there's an excitement you can feel in the auditorium of like, oh man, like that's going to look really good. Like when we saw F1, there was the IMAX trailer for it, and that looked really good on IMAX, and I was like, oh, that's going to be pretty. So again, man, I don't think that Rebirth is going to affect it whatsoever with the opening box office. I think a lot of people that wanted to see Rebirth have already seen it, and I think people have been really circling their calendars for. You could argue this is the movie of the summer in terms of just hype and anticipation, whether you are anticipating it being bad or anticipating being good. So I'm thinking my prediction's 150 plus domestically, probably 300 plus worldwide, but just to stay domestic, I'd say I could see this movie making 150. I'm just going to give you a number. I think this movie makes like 165 opening weekend. I think it's going to be massive. I really do.
I don't know enough about what movies make. You know a lot more about that than
some people are saying that it could be 100 million because the ticket sales have stalled out. I think it's going to be way bigger.
Because look at what Jurassic World did, and you weren't hearing about, oh man, it's selling out theaters left and right and doing this and doing that. So I think it's going to do fantastic at the box office. And again, how well it's received is going to dictate its overall number. But I can't imagine this movie not making. If it makes below,
let's hear a number. Let's just for fun. Let's hear a rounded number. Like, do you think it's just higher or low? 140, higher or lower? Higher than 140. Okay, so if we're way off on this, and this actually is like 105 million opening, because again, this is just a 3-day weekend. It's not like the July 4th weekend where Jurassic World got to add the whole holiday weekend. Yeah, man. I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm just telling you, this movie's everywhere. There's an excitement for it from what I see in the theaters I've gone to. I'd be shocked if this doesn't, like you said, go over 140. But just to be fun, I'm going to say 165 for my box office prediction. But all right, well, yeah, that wraps up our first episode, man, of Movie Retreat. And we got there. We had some technical difficulties we had to deal with early
And it took
on.
so long to set like
It did.
It happens to us all the time though. Like we'll try to set stuff up. We're like, all right, man, here's the plan. We'll get all this stuff. We'll buy new equipment and then we'll go in there and we'll be setting it up and a light will go out or the HDMI cable is not working, so we have to go scrounge up another. It's just but yeah, we've stuck with it. Finally got everything hammered out, and hopefully
by the time you listen to this episode, we'll probably have an episode, maybe even 2 more episodes. Again, our plan is to batch this, release like maybe 2 or 3 episodes at once. So by the time you see this or hear this, there might be another episode that you can watch. So definitely check out the other episodes. Let us know what you think with a rating, whether you're listening to this podcast, whether you're catching this on the YouTube channel. Maybe you found this through clips on different social sites. Let us know how you found us and let us know if you're along for the journey. And if you need a movie retreat, this is the place to be, man. For all movie fans, we might not always agree, but we can all agree that we love movies. Hey.
Wow, you just came up with that. That's not too bad.
Hey, that ain't bad. Yeah. But no, great episode, man. We got there and I can't wait for the next episodes. The first one's always the toughest. Now that we got everything set up, man, we're going to just keep the pedal to the metal F1 style, Sunny Hayes style. So thank y'all for joining. Thanks for listening. Hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Chris, do you have anything you want to close with?
Again, I just hope that, everybody enjoys it. We're going to have fun making it and we're going to try to do things that we find interesting and that hopefully there's an audience for that. And
yeah, there'll be a lot of experimentation with like different formats, different games. And so we'll see what gets the better responses. We'll see what doesn't, and we'll go from there. But again, like I said, man, if you love movies, you love that vibe of just talking about movies with your friends, we hope you feel like you're in the room with us. That's kind of the vibe we're going for here on Movie Retreat. So I'll speak for Chris. I'll speak for myself. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I hope to see you at the Movie Retreat next time.